one question that always sort of intrigues me is, if you look at global, and there has been so much innovation that's happened, and a couple of questions from the attendees as well. There is vertical farming, there is hydroponics, and we've not even spoken about spaces like animal feed, livestock, fishery, so what are some of the innovations, we didn't speak a lot about farm equipment, etc., as another sort of input, right? So what do you think are some of the global learnings, as India, as the agricultural infrastructure improves, that will be very relevant for India, so that we are ready for, we've taken the whatever 2G to 4G jump, a lot of jumps we've taken, even in Euro norms we've taken jumps. Are there certain similar jumps you see that that will happen on the agtech side, and what should we be ready for?
Thanks, Ariman. I'll try and take a stab. Um, so yeah, I think I kind of agree with Shashank there. We've kind of been watching this space emerge over the last decade at Omnivore, both in India as well as globally. If I kind of take a quick look out of what has happened globally in agtech, we've over the last decade basically mapped the whole space into like 4 or 5 different segments, right? There is a bunch of stuff happening at genetics level, which basically involves long tail R&D, which sometimes may not be really VC friendly given kind of our timelines as a fund, right? It kind of puts pressure on returns in a finite time, and that is also probably one of the few reasons why you haven't really seen a lot of Indian VC investors really backing core biotech stuff. But that's a very important space as far as global agtech is concerned, right? And you've seen folks like Indigo, Benson Hill, all of these guys kind of growing big, leading, and also kind of exits coming out from a bunch of these companies. The second space has been sustainable inputs as far as kind of global ag is concerned, and I think what Shashank was mentioning about the Indian regulator also now warming up to the fact that you need to ban certain molecules which are in your red category as far as their toxicity is concerned, and risk of overuse, because with pesticide, what happens is that using it not in the proper fashion, there's a chance of eutrophication later on in the soil and water and so on and so forth. And there, I think a lot of investments have gone in global agtech startups, and I think it'll follow in India to some extent. The third, of course, has been big data and precision ag. And I think there are companies like Descartes and, of course, CropInsure, massive exits like Granular in the global landscape, which is, I think, also stimulated a lot of companies to kind of focus there. And all of that is backed on the entire mobile and kind of cloud computing, backbone, which has happened. The last space, which has again attracted a lot of capital, and I think we've seen a lot of exits as well as future financing activities globally, has been this whole theme of innovative food, alternate proteins, whether it's a Beyond Meat, whether it's Impossible, whether it's people who are trying to create more sustainable protein, right? For that matter, that also has been another kind of segment where we have seen a lot of activity. Now, coming back to the point that do we really see, and just to give a quick data point in terms of how financing has worked in agri-food till in the last few years, I think in 2013, if I have my numbers right, I think the total investment made in the space was about $2 billion, and that has kind of jumped to about 20 billion as of last year, right? So it kind of follows a similar trajectory of what you mentioned in the India kind of funding landscape. So that said, I think there are a few things here which I think will apply to India and won't apply to India. One of the questions I was also seeing is that will hydroponics, why have we not seen, for example, more action in hydroponics, either from a startup perspective or from an investor perspective? Our firm belief is that we have a lot of other problems to solve for currently, and hydroponics currently seems to be an overkill as far as the capex is involved. We're a country where we get sunshine 10 months a year, 8 months a year, 10 months a year. We're not a cold country. We're not a cold country where we need too much protection against the elements, right? Which is fundamental for hydroponics. I think we are, to Shashank's point, we are blessed to have a extremely good biodiversity in terms of climatic zones, right? So agri production never stops in the country, and so as a reason, I think we'll at least for the foreseeable immediate future see any activity which is around hydroponics be limited to either like the top 0.5% of of the value in terms of exotics, and in terms of consumers who want just 100% safe, secure product which has been untouched by any chemicals. But that is also like 0.5% is big enough for a lot of players to really scale. So I'm not debating that. But our sense has been that till the capex of those technologies really crash and the output can be compared to open field agricultural output, or maybe 15-20% above that, what we call mass premium, right? I think that influx won't come, and this is not like Singapore, right, where you need to have like food security mapped out for that city country. So that's kind of been our take on why certain things like hydroponics haven't really scaled, and they've largely become more like lifestyle businesses, for the lack of a better word, right now.